You know Michael Myers, you know Freddy Krueger. You've seen the girl crawl out of the TV. The classics are classics for a reason, no doubt about it. They built the foundation, taught us the rules, and gave us nightmares that have stuck around for decades, but horror has changed. It's mutated. Modern horror is moving beyond the old playbook, finding new ways to get inside our heads, to tap into our modern fears, and to create images so messed up they're impossible to shake. The real evolution of fear, the stuff that truly gets under your skin, is in the scenes you haven't seen. The ones that don't always grab the spotlight but are whispered about in horror communities online. These are the moments that prove the genre isn't just alive and well, it's more terrifying than ever. Today, we're digging up 25 of the most terrifying, unforgettable, and underrated scenes in modern horror that will completely redefine what you think is scary. We're talking sanity-shattering descents into madness and supernatural encounters that feel way too real. These are the hidden gems of terror that will stick with you long after the movie is over. We're getting into the craft, the psychology, and the pure, unfiltered dread that makes these moments work. So, you might want to turn down the lights and check your locks. Let's get started. We're kicking things off with a franchise that completely redefined found footage for a new generation. The first Paranormal Activity was all about that slow burn tension and things going bump in the night. The sequel decided to show you exactly what was making the bump. The setup couldn't be simpler. A static, wide shot of a bright, clean kitchen. It's daytime. Nothing scary happens in the daytime, right? The family dog wanders in, whimpers, and gets out of there. A baby starts crying from another room. The mom, Christy, walks through the kitchen to check on her child. The camera just holds on that empty room. It holds for an uncomfortably long time, training you to scan every single inch of the frame for something wrong, and then, with zero warning, every single cabinet and drawer in the kitchen blasts open at once with this incredible force. There's no ghost, no monster, just a sudden, deafening explosion of normal life turning into chaos. It's more than a jump scare, it's a violation. The kitchen is supposed to be the heart of the home, a place of safety. In 5 seconds, the film turns it into a hostile, unpredictable space. It's proof that the entity haunting this family isn't just playing around. It's powerful, violent, and can do anything it wants. The Final Destination series is built on one simple, terrifying idea. You can't cheat death. But no scene in the entire franchise captures the pure, stomach-churning anxiety of that idea better than the opening highway pileup in the second film. It's a symphony of destruction that has permanently scarred an entire generation of drivers. The setup is a brilliant exercise in rising panic. We see the loose chain on the logging truck, the spilled drink, the toy stuck under the brake pedal. Every detail is a ticking time bomb. Director David R. Ellis doesn't just show us a car crash. He orchestrates an 11-minute nightmare of vehicular mayhem that feels frighteningly real. The reason it works so well is that it taps into a fear we all have. We've all been driving behind a logging truck and had that thought, what if? This scene is the what if brought to life in the most gruesome way possible. The sound design is just a brutal assault of screeching tires and crunching metal, but the scariest part is the chain reaction. It's not one crash, but a cascade of horrors, each one setting off the next, showing you with brutal honesty how little control we really have. It's a sequence so effective it goes beyond the slasher genre and becomes a gold standard for action horror. This adaptation of the classic ghost story is all about gothic atmosphere, and that's never more clear than in the nursery scene. Arthur Kipps, played by Daniel Radcliffe, is a man drowning in grief, sent to a remote, haunted house. He's already on edge, but the film is patient, building a suffocating sense of dread before it goes for the scare. The scene finds Arthur in the abandoned nursery of Eel Marsh House. The room is filled with creepy, silent toys and covered in dust. In the corner, a rocking chair sits perfectly still. Arthur hears a noise and turns his back to the chair. When he turns back, it's rocking gently. Yeah, it's a classic trope, but the execution is perfect. The real genius is the use of sound and silence. The only noise is the rhythmic, unnerving creak of the chair. Arthur, trying to find a rational explanation, stops it. He turns away again, and the creaking starts right back up, only faster this time, more aggressive. Then, as he's staring at the chair, a ghostly face just appears in the window behind it for a split second. The film doesn't even linger on it. The real horror isn't the jump scare of the face, it's the psychological game the ghost is playing with the rocking chair. It isn't just trying to scare him, it's putting on a performance, showing him its power and its pure malice in the most unsettling way possible. Michael Dougherty's Krampus is a perfect blend of horror and dark comedy, a twisted Christmas story that's a great reminder to be careful what you wish for. The film is full of creature feature fun, but the attic scene stands out as a moment of pure, claustrophobic terror. The power goes out, a blizzard cuts the family off from the world, and young Beth disappears. Her brother Max and her dad go up into the dark, freezing attic to find her. The atmosphere is instantly oppressive. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, lighting up old Christmas decorations like they're skeletons. They hear a noise, and their flashlight beams land on a massive, snake-like creature uncoiling from the rafters. A demonic jack-in-the-box. The chaos that follows is terrifying. The creature, a mix of clown and serpent, swallows a kid whole while other twisted Christmas toys like a fanged teddy bear and a killer angel come to life. The scene weaponizes all your childhood fears, the dark, monsters, toys coming to life, but cranks them up to a deadly, adult level. The cramped attic means there's nowhere to run, and the frantic action and grotesque creature designs make this a true highlight of modern monster movies. It's solid proof that Christmas horror can be way more than just a gimmick. Adam Wingard's You're Next took the home invasion genre and gave it a much-needed shot in the arm, and the opening kill is a perfect example of how the film tricks you, making you think you're watching a standard family drama. An estranged family gets together for their parents' anniversary, old fights are bubbling up, and you're focused on the awkward dinner conversation. The camera is handheld and intimate, making you feel like you're right there at the table. Then, as an argument breaks out between two brothers, it happens. A crossbow bolt smashes through the dining room window and hits a character right in the head. The sudden, shocking violence is just breathtaking. The sound of the arrow hitting is sickeningly real, and it instantly shatters the normal, everyday feeling of the scene. What makes this so effective is how abrupt it is. There's no warning music, no slow tension build, just a normal moment that gets obliterated by extreme violence. The camera immediately dives into chaos, mirroring the family's panic as animal-masked killers appear outside, turning their beautiful home into a death trap. This scene isn't just a jump scare, it's a warning. It tells the audience that nobody is safe, the threat is ruthlessly efficient, and the movie you thought you were watching is over. The real nightmare is just getting started. After a decade directing Spider-Man movies, Sam Raimi came back to his horror roots with Drag Me to Hell, and it was like he never left. The film is a joyfully over-the-top, gross-out horror comedy, and the graveyard scene is Raimi at his most unhinged. Lone officer Christine Brown, cursed by the vengeful Mrs. Ganush, is told she has to desecrate the corpse of her attacker to try and break the curse. This leads her to a rain-soaked, muddy cemetery in the middle of the night. What happens next is a masterpiece of physical horror and slapstick comedy. As Christine struggles to dig, the storm turns the ground into a soupy mess. She falls into the grave, it starts filling with water, and she's trapped. Then, in a moment of pure Raimi insanity, Mrs. Ganush's corpse, pushed by the floodwater, slams right into her. Its mouth falls open and it vomits embalming fluid and worms all over Christine's screaming face. It's disgusting, it's ridiculous, and it's absolutely terrifying. The scene works because it is so relentless. Christine is degraded, submerged in mud and death, and physically assaulted by the very person she's trying to get away from. Raimi's manic camera work and the squelching, sickening sound design make you feel every bit of her desperation and disgust. Nicholas Winding Refn's The Neon Demon is a hypnotic, controversial dive into the brutal world of high fashion. It's less of a story and more of a sensory experience, a fever dream of color, light, and psychological horror. The scene where aspiring model Jessie truly confronts the dangerous nature of her new reality is a triumph of surreal terror. During a key photo shoot, Jessie is told to strip down and is covered in gold paint. Alone in a dressing room afterwards, she stands in front of a three-way mirror. As she stares at her reflection, the other two reflections start moving on their own. They turn to her, their faces cold and judgmental. Then they lean in and kiss her, a predatory act that is both seductive and deeply disturbing. The scene has no dialogue, driven entirely by Cliff Martinez's pulsating score and the stunning visuals. Refn uses the mirrors to show us Jesse's fracturing mind. She's no longer a whole person, but a collection of images to be consumed and judged. The reflections are her own ambition and insecurity come to life, warning her about the self-devouring world she's entered. It's not a jump scare, but a moment of deep psychological dread, a beautifully crafted nightmare that gets to the film's central theme. Beauty isn't something you have, it's something you consume, even if it means consuming yourself. T. West is a modern master of the slow burn, and The Innkeepers might be his most patient and rewarding film. It follows two amateur ghost hunters, Claire and Luke, during the final weekend of the supposedly haunted Yankee Peddler Inn. For most of the movie, it's a charming, character-driven story with the horror just simmering under the surface. The payoff comes in the final act when Claire goes down into the inn's basement. Armed with a microphone and recorder, Claire is determined to contact the spirit of Madeline O'Malley, a bride who haunts the inn. The basement is dark, cluttered, and just inherently creepy. West uses long, static shots, forcing you to lean in and listen as closely as Claire does. She whispers Madeline's name, and a faint, almost inaudible whisper answers. She asks again, and this time the response is clearer, a ghostly voice right in her ear. Then she turns, and for a split second, the figure of a woman in a wedding dress is standing at the end of the hall before she vanishes. The scare is so powerful because it's earned. Wes spends over an hour building the atmosphere and our connection to Claire. We're as invested in this ghost hunt as she is. That sudden appearance isn't just a shock, it's a confirmation of the dread that has been building the entire time. Before he terrified the world with The Ring, director Hideo Nakata perfected his brand of atmospheric, waterlogged J-horror with Dark Water. The film follows a divorced mother, Yoshimi, and her young daughter, Ikuko, who move into a rundown, perpetually damp apartment. The whole film is soaked in a sense of sadness and decay, symbolized by the spreading water stain on their bedroom ceiling. The final scene is, honestly, a gut punch of emotional horror. After Ikuko goes missing, Yoshimi races to the apartment upstairs, which is now completely flooded. The taps are running and the water is ankle deep. As she searches, she sees her daughter with her back turned by the overflowing bathtub. But when she calls her name, another Ikuko appears at the door, perfectly safe. Yoshimi turns back to the bathtub, and the small figure turns around, revealing the ghastly waterlogged ghost of Mitsuko, a young girl who drowned in the building's water tank years ago. The ghost lunges for Ikuko, and in a heartbreaking act of sacrifice, Yoshimi embraces the ghost, promising to be her mother forever and condemning herself to an eternity as a spirit to save her own child. The horror of this scene isn't just the ghost, it's the unbearable emotional weight of Yoshimi's choice. It's a terrifying and tragic ending that, honestly, elevates the film from a simple ghost story to a powerful statement on motherhood and sacrifice. Sidney J. Fury's The Entity is a truly harrowing film about supernatural assault. Based on the real-life case of Doris Bither, the film follows Carla Moran, a single mother who is repeatedly attacked by an invisible force. What makes the film so disturbing is that it refuses to treat the events as psychological. This is presented as a physical, real phenomenon. The most chilling scene takes place not in a dark bedroom, but in a brightly lit university laboratory. A team of parapsychologists trying to study the phenomenon rebuild Carla's bedroom inside an observation chamber. They fill the room with liquid nitrogen, hoping to make the entity visible. Carla, terrified but desperate for proof, sits on the bed and waits. The tension is almost unbearable. Then, a small orb of light appears. It slowly grows, forming a vague humanoid shape out of the freezing gas. It's a crude, almost abstract form, but its intention is unmistakable as it moves toward Carla. The scene is terrifying because it throws out all the usual tropes. This isn't a ghost in a haunted house. This is an aggressive force being observed under scientific conditions, and science is powerless to stop it. The clinical setting just makes the violation feel even more profound. There is no escape, no rational explanation, just the cold, horrifying reality of her tormentor made visible. Let the Right One In is a masterpiece, a film that is somehow tender, sad, and shockingly violent all at once. It's about Oscar, a lonely, bullied kid, and his friendship with Eli, a centuries-old vampire in a child's body. The film's climax in a public swimming pool is a breathtaking, bloody, and almost righteous moment of vengeance. Oscar is lured to the pool by his bullies, who hold his head underwater, threatening to drown him. The scene is shot with terrifying realism. The camera is underwater with Oscar, and we hear his muffled screams and feel his panic as his lungs burn for air. Just as he's about to pass out, there's a sudden splash. The water turns red. A severed head plops into the pool, followed by a dismembered arm. The camera stays underwater with Oscar as all this chaos unfolds above. When he finally comes up for air, he sees Eli with a feral look on her face, having brutally dispatched his tormentors. The genius of this scene is the perspective. By keeping the camera underwater, the film denies us the spectacle of the violence and focuses instead on Oscar's rescue. It's a moment of horrific carnage that feels like a triumphant, beautiful, and terrifying conclusion to one of the most unique love stories in horror history. J.A. Bayona's is, honestly, a deeply moving and genuinely scary ghost story that cares way more about emotion and suspense than just cheap scares. So, Laura returns to the orphanage where she grew up, hoping to turn it into a home for sick children. Her adopted son, Simon, starts playing with this imaginary friend named Thomas, a boy in a sackcloth mask. Now, the film's most iconic scene is this game of Uno, Dos, Tres, Toca la Pared, which is basically a Spanish version of red light, green light. Desperate to find her now-missing son, Laura brings in a medium. During the seance, the medium tells Laura to play the game, to invite the spirits to show themselves. Laura stands in a hallway, closes her eyes and chants, 1, 2, 3, knock on the wall. The tension here is built almost entirely through sound. We hear the faint creaks of the old house, the whispers of the medium, and then the sound of a child's footsteps and a soft knock. Laura keeps her eyes shut, her face just a mask of both hope and terror. When she finally opens them, the ghosts of the orphanage children are standing at the end of the hall. It's a beautifully handled scare that relies so much on atmosphere and performance. The ghosts aren't really monsters. They're tragic, and their appearance is both a confirmation of the supernatural and, honestly, a heartbreaking clue to the film's central mystery. Ari Aster followed up his masterpiece with a film that, swaps dark rooms for sun-drenched fields, proving that horror doesn't really need shadows to be terrifying. This is a film about grief, bad relationships, and the creepy comfort of a cult, all leading up to one of the most shocking scenes in modern cinema, the Ättestupa. So, a group of American grad students are visiting this remote Swedish commune for their midsummer festival. The first major ritual they witness is a ceremonial suicide for two of the community's elders. They're led to the top of a cliff, and the whole scene is shot in bright, beautiful sunlight, with the entire community dressed in white below. The first elder just calmly drinks something and then leaps, shattering on the rocks below. The sound design is honestly brutally realistic. The second elder hesitates, but after some gentle encouragement, she jumps. She survives the fall, her leg broken at a gruesome angle. Then, the community, in this display of ritualized empathy, starts moaning and crying in unison with her before a few members walk over with a huge wooden mallet to finish the job. The horror here is, coming from all angles. It's the graphic violence, the alien nature of the ritual, and the chilling collective acceptance of it all. It's really the moment that shatters any sense of normalcy and signals that this idyllic commune is anything but. Jordan Peele's was, without a doubt, a cultural phenomenon, a razor-sharp thriller that used horror to dissect race and liberal hypocrisy in America. At the heart of the film is a concept so brilliant and visually striking that it's just become a permanent part of our culture, the sunken place. Chris, a black photographer, is visiting his white girlfriend Rose's family. Rose's mother, Missy, a psychiatrist, offers to cure his smoking habit with hypnosis. As she stirs her tea, the rhythmic clinking of the spoon on the cup becomes a trigger. Chris's body goes rigid. He can't move. Missy tells him to sink. The camera zooms into his terrified eye, and suddenly he's falling through this endless black void. His physical body is still in the chair, a tear streaming down his face. But his consciousness is adrift, watching his own life through a tiny, distant screen. He can see and hear, but he can't move or speak. He is a passenger in his own body. The sunken place is just a terrifyingly perfect metaphor for the marginalization and powerlessness of Black people in America. It represents the feeling of being silenced, of having your own agency stolen while your body is used by others. It's a moment of profound psychological horror that honestly cemented Jordan Peele as a modern master of the genre. James Wan's The Conjuring kicked off a whole cinematic universe by going back to basics with a classic, perfectly crafted haunted house story. The film is packed with great scares, but none are as masterfully built as the hide and clap sequence. So, Carolyn Perron is in the basement, drawn down there by the sound of a bouncing ball. The door slams shut, the light bulb shatters, and she's in total darkness. Meanwhile, upstairs, her daughters are playing a game of hide and clap. One person hides, and the other, blindfolded, tries to find them by listening for their claps. As one daughter, Andrea, walks through the house blindfolded, she hears a clap from inside a big wardrobe. She opens it, but no one's there. Then she hears another clap from on top of the wardrobe. The genius here is the cross-cutting. Wan cuts between Carolyn's terror in the dark basement and her daughter's innocent game upstairs. We, the audience, know that the entity in the basement is the same one playing with the kids. The sound of the clapping becomes a source of pure dread. When the demonic hands finally emerge from the darkness above the wardrobe and clap right next to Andrea's head, it's a perfectly executed jump scare that pays off 2 full minutes of agonizing tension. Before The Conjuring, James Wan and Lee Whannell breathed new life into supernatural horror with Insidious. The film has plenty of iconic scares, but the one that had audiences literally jumping out of their seats was the sudden appearance of the lipstick face demon. So Josh's mother, Lorraine, is describing a nightmare she had about a demonic figure standing in the corner of her grandson Dalton's bedroom. As she describes this thing, the camera focuses on Josh, who is clearly skeptical. Lorraine says the demon told her it wanted Dalton. Josh just dismisses it as a dream. She continues, "It wasn't in the dream that I saw him." The tension is thick. The camera stays tight on Josh's face as he tries to comfort his mom. And then, in one perfectly timed shot, the demon's horrifying red and black face just appears right behind his head. The scare is so effective because of its pure audacity. There's no musical sting, no build-up in the final seconds, just a normal conversation. And then bam! It breaks the rule that a conversation scene is a safe scene. It's a cheap shot in the best possible way. The image of the demon is so jarring and unexpected that it's burned into the memory of everyone who's seen it. Robert Eggers' debut, The Witch, is not a jump scare movie. It is a slow, methodical descent into paranoia, religious fervor, and historical dread. The film meticulously recreates the 17th century Puritan world, making the supernatural feel terrifyingly real. The horror is all atmosphere, building to a final scene that is both liberating and bone-chilling. The family has been torn apart by suspicion and witchcraft. Thomasin, the eldest daughter, is the only one left alive. Alone and cast out, she goes to the goat shed. She speaks to Black Phillip, the family's goat, who has been a quiet threat throughout the entire film. "Black Phillip," she whispers, "I conjure thee to speak to me." The goat stands on its hind legs, and a deep, seductive, masculine voice responds, "Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?" The voice promises her the world, new dresses, the taste of butter, the ability to see everything. All she has to do is sign his book. The horror here isn't a monster reveal. It's in the quiet, tempting nature of evil. After an hour and a half of suffering, the devil doesn't show up with fire and brimstone, but with a gentle offer. And Thomasin, stripped of everything, accepts. The scene is the horrifying yet strangely triumphant birth of a witch. T. West's is a perfect, terrifying love letter to the satanic panic films of the late 1970s and early 80s. It was shot on 16mm film, and it perfectly captures the look and feel of that era. For most of its runtime, it's a slow burn thriller. A college student named Samantha takes a strange babysitting job at a remote house. The employers are creepy, but the pay is good. She's told the child is asleep upstairs and she won't even see them. As the night goes on, her suspicion grows. In the climax, she finally goes upstairs to investigate. What she finds in the attic is not a sleeping child. It's a trio of grotesque, mummified-looking bodies, propped up in chairs around a pentagram. The reveal is shocking and deeply bizarre. The lo-fi, grainy film makes the scene feel like a lost, cursed artifact. The horror comes from the confirmation that all of Samantha's creeping fears were not just justified, they were understated. The strange pizza order, the locked doors, the weird phone calls, it all clicks into place in this one horrifying image. This isn't just a weird family, it's a satanic cult, and she is the main event for their ritual. The slow, deliberate pacing makes this final, frantic explosion of horror all the more effective. Jennifer Kent's is one of the most celebrated horror films of the last 20 years, a terrifying exploration of grief, motherhood, and depression. The monster is a physical manifestation of a mother's trauma, making the horror deeply psychological. The scariest scene isn't a jump scare, but a moment of slow creeping dread that feels like it could shatter your sanity. Amelia is in bed, tormented by the entity from a children's pop-up book. The bedroom door creaks open. A dark, spidery silhouette of the Babadook, tall hat, long fingers, appears in the doorway. It moves with an unnatural, jittery quality like something out of an old German expressionist film. Its guttural, croaking voice whispers, "Babadook, duk, duk," as it scuttles across the ceiling and down into the corner of the room, becoming a looming black void of pure evil. Amelia pulls the covers over her head, a primal, childlike defense against the monster. The scene is a masterclass in atmosphere. The creature's design is terrifying in its simplicity. Its distorted voice is pure nightmare fuel. And the horror is amplified by the question, is this really happening, or is it a projection of Amelia's complete mental breakdown? It's a perfect visual of overwhelming, oppressive grief. Scott Derrickson's understands that old media can be inherently horrifying. It's about a true crime writer, Ellison Oswalt, who finds a box of Super 8 home movies in his attic. Each film shows the gruesome murder of a different family. The film's most infamous scare comes from the tape labeled Lawn Work 86. Ellison watches grainy footage of a happy family on a sunny day. Then, it cuts to night. We see from a first-person perspective as someone pushes a lawnmower across the grass. The shot just holds on this for an agonizingly long time. The only light is from the camera. The only sound is the hum of the mower. You know something is coming. The tension is almost unbearable. You're scanning the darkness, waiting for it. And then the lawnmower rolls over something. The camera tilts up, and for a split second you see a screaming bound person illuminated before being run over. What makes this so terrifying is the expert use of anticipation. Derrickson makes you wait, building the suspense until you can't take it anymore, and the reveal is still a shock. But the real horror is what's left to your imagination. You don't see the gore, you see the setup, you see the victim, and your brain fills in the horrific blanks. David Robert Mitchell's is a modern horror classic that created a new, terrifyingly simple movie monster. It is a curse, passed through sex, that causes a supernatural entity to slowly, relentlessly walk towards you. It can look like anyone, and only the person who is cursed can see it. The film's most heart-stopping scene shows you just how horrifying this is. Jay, our protagonist, is at home with her friends. They're her support system, but they're also useless because they can't see the thing that's hunting her. She sees something outside. A tall, gaunt man is walking towards the house. She panics, telling her friends to lock the doors. The real terror of the scene comes from the contrast between what Jay sees and what her friends see. We're put directly in her terrified headspace. As her friend Yara goes to the door to see what's wrong, she opens it to find nothing. She tells Jay no one is there, but the camera cuts back to Jay's perspective, and we, along with her, see the tall man emerge from the darkness of the hallway right behind Yara. He's so tall he has to duck to get through the doorframe. It's a moment of pure, undiluted panic. The entity isn't just outside, it's in the house, in what should be a safe space. Neil Marshall's is one of the most intense and claustrophobic horror films ever made. It's about a group of female friends on a caving trip that goes terribly wrong. The horror is twofold. the crushing, inescapable environment, and what's hiding inside it. For the first hour, the film is a masterclass in survival horror. The women are trapped, lost, and turning on each other. The tension is already at a breaking point. And then Marshall shows his hand. The group is moving through a large cavern, using the night vision on their camera to see. The screen is bathed in that eerie green glow. The camera pans across the cave, scanning the darkness. And for just a split second, standing among the rock formations is a pale, humanoid figure. It's perfectly still. The character holding the camera doesn't even notice it, but we do. The camera pans away, then pans back, and the creature is gone. It's a blink and you'll miss it moment that is absolutely terrifying. It confirms that the paranoia and the feeling of being watched were real. They are not alone. A few moments later, the creature appears again, screaming right into the camera, and all hell breaks loose. But it's that initial subtle reveal that makes it so brilliant. It plays on our fear of the dark and the unknown, proving that the scariest monster is the one you can barely see. Ben Wheatley's is a film that's almost impossible to categorize. It starts as a gritty British crime drama, morphs into a disturbing psychological thriller, and ends as a full-blown, terrifying folk horror nightmare. The final 20 minutes are a relentless assault on your senses. Jay, a hitman with PTSD, has been manipulated by